Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Harnessing the Power of LinkedIn webinar series, Building and Branding the Best You. I am going to be joined by two amazing presenters today, Brad Holman with Microsoft and Takia Ross. They're about to come on camera for you all. And let me introduce you, give you their bios. You are going to enjoy this session. LinkedIn is what we know is one of the most popular and useful social networking tools for business owners and professionals, but many members are not taking advantage of all that LinkedIn has to offer. COVID has eliminated the in-person professional engagement opportunities, but it certainly hasn't limited the engagement of us on the web and how to network and build relationships through LinkedIn. Today, we are talking about building and branding the best you, and we have two of the best people to talk about that and demonstrate that for us this afternoon. Let me first introduce Brad Holman. Brad has over 15 years of experience in higher education under a global context, delivering learning and student experience solutions at scale across several regions of the world. Brad is an entrepreneur in the tech startup space, and as a technology strategist, Brad's core role is to understand business value and need. He is with Microsoft and is bringing us this session today. It's going to help Takia learn how to rock her profile. Takia, I'll present to some and introduce to others, but is one of the most accomplished professional makeup artists in the world and owner of Assessment. Yeah, I claimed it. Yeah, I'm saying it. That's why I brought the awarded shirt for you, Entrepreneur Her. In honor of Assessmentized Makeup Artistry, home of the Pretty Mobile Baltimore, the DMV's first mobile makeup studio, and Kiki Thunder Cosmetics, a small batch manufacturing company based in Baltimore that creates a line of lip products, face powders, lashes, all of which are named after people, places, and things in Baltimore. Her artistry has been featured in publications like Essence, NBC, BET. She's helped individuals across this country learn how to pitch for business, and in 2018 hosted the first So You Want to Pitch conference, helping entrepreneurs understand how to raise over $65,000 in cash and prizes by non-traditional route of pitching their business plan. She sits on the Johns Hopkins Local Advisory Board, where she works to ensure access to opportunities for small minority-owned businesses in Baltimore and across our region. She has been named one of the DMV's top 100 minority-owned businesses. She's been named by the Baltimore Sun as one of the top 25 women to watch, and this session is going to be illustrative of why she is someone to watch. We're sit back, take out your pads, your paper, so that you can understand how to rock your profile and join in. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Brad and Takia. Now, let me say this: you can there are a couple of ways that you can have your questions answered and have your questions asked. You can type your questions in the chat or text your questions to 22333 and type JHUWL in the message. And I'll get those, and I'll be back in about 40 minutes after Brad and Takia do all the tools to get her profile built and branded. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Brad and Takia.
Thank you so much, Alicia, for the great intro. And Takia, thank you for joining me today. I think this is going to be an exciting 40 minutes or so that we're going to work to identify your brand and identify your profile that matches who you are.
Oh, thank you, Brad. We're going to have a good time. I'm ready. I got my pen. I got my paper. I'm ready, Brad. I'm ready.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen really quick, and I'm going to toggle between a presentation and an actual browser, because the purpose of this exercise is to be functional value that you're going to use after we finish this session, that you're going to take and build your profile so it reflects your true you. I will, I'll kind of overview the introduction here for us. It's, we're going to cover the profile and your story. So think about when you present yourself and you're showing who you are, who your business is with Accessimatize, you're trying to showcase the truest you and the most genuine you. So folks, colleagues, mentors, other business owners understand who you truly are and what Accessimatize represents. We're going to go into some really tactical activities around what your profile photo should be, the headline, what that represents, and then the industry that you're in. And through the course of this entire session that we go through this, Takia, I'm going to outline metrics, because LinkedIn has the ability to measure and runs analytics against what people are doing. So you can reflect on how many more views, how many more connections you'll make because of these changes you're going to have based on what LinkedIn has seen through the network. We'll then go into the profile summary. That's the about section, what's important there. And then we'll wrap it up with skills, endorsements, and recommendations. And what I want to do is each section, we're going to take a peek at your profile on LinkedIn and then have a conversation around that to see, does it really meet or match who you are? Or is there some areas where you can improve? Sound good?
Sounds like a plan to me.
Excellent. So without further ado, let's go ahead and crack on. I'm going to make this a little smaller, and this is helpful for anyone who wants to come and watch the video later. You can scrub through and see where we are inside of this. So when we talk about your profile and your story, it's really, you don't want to build your profile on LinkedIn to be like a resume, because that's not necessarily truly what you're talking about. That's just professional achievements. When we talk about a profile on LinkedIn, we're really reflecting who I said earlier, your truest self. So one thing that's important is you want to be you want to have some items. Obviously, you've already covered the piece on creating your LinkedIn or creating an account and creating your LinkedIn profile roughly, right? But for folks tuning in, they may not have. So that's important to kick that piece off to get just to that part. The other piece that's important is first and foremost, always privacy. So take a minute out of your time to go through and check out the security settings on your account. I'm showing here some of your privacy settings. This section of LinkedIn is where you can configure that. It's important if you don't want to share certain things, if you're concerned around data privacy. So this is kind of the boring stuff, getting that out of the way to make sure that you feel comfortable in the space. So just wanted to cover that piece first. So the unique success story of your life. How do you differentiate yourself, Takia Ross, from others in this industry? So when you think about creating your profile initially, you want to think about how will this address new opportunities, partnerships, new businesses, mentorships, and even speaking events. Important. You're actually very well matured in that space with the amount of times that you've done speaking events and all the endorsements you've gotten. So when we think about building that out, it has to take into account also, it's not just words. And I really like how you've used media as well to represent what your profile looks like, because that tends to pull more folks in to make connections with you. So I'm going to pause real quick and see, do you see a lot of engagement with other peers in LinkedIn, Takia, or do you see it in other social media spaces that they came to you because of something on your profile?
I normally get where people find me because I have spoken somewhere and they look me up on LinkedIn. So especially in the professional sphere, when you're doing a speaking engagement, honestly, other professionals, that's the first place they go. They go to LinkedIn to kind of check you out and see what you are professionally. So that's where I get the most engagement from my LinkedIn.
Excellent. So one thing as I'm looking through here and I see some of the sections, one thing to take into account is how you've structured for example, your about section in your profile. It's best practice to write in the first person narrative. You're talking about yourself. So I am, right? And you want to keep it as concise to the point. Reason being, someone that's going to glance through here, it's kind of like marketing. You're capturing their time. They looked you up and you want to hit them pretty hard with the most engaging conversation topics that represent you in the about section first. Again, not a resume. You don't want to just go saying I worked here, I did this. You want to really get to that human aspect of it. It's truly art, in my opinion, how you build out the profile versus just I'm filling in these sections just to make sure I check the box.
Okay.
The other piece that's interesting around this in your profile is regularly keeping it updated. So that what LinkedIn, or what I've observed is in some of the LinkedIn Learn courses, because a lot of what we're talking about here is found in LinkedIn Learn, is that when you keep a regular update and current things that you're working on, current activities or experiences that you've had, what people tend to feel is that it's a little bit more trust, and there's like a more transparency to you, to who you are in your profile. And that rings well when someone's trying to understand, like you went and had a speaking event. If they show up on your LinkedIn profile and it's kind of sitting idle for a while, obviously it's not going to reflect as well. But if you're regularly engaged and they want to connect with you, they'll know that you're regularly updating your profile.
Okay. I already see stuff I need to update, Brad.
There you go. So moving on, one thing I love your photo, how you've gotten this in the background photos, but there are some, I think you could make this pop more a little bit. So
All right, tell me.
if I go to your site, your Accessimatized site, you have wonderful art that you've put together with different photos, right? I think
Yeah.
with that, you're representing your accomplishments well here, which is awesome. But I think you can start incorporating what you've built into your website for Accessimatized into this profile view to help it pop more, right?
So, Brad, do you think, just a quick question, do you think that we should figure out what story we want to tell the audience prior to creating? You know, as we think about creating our LinkedIn profile, what do we want our audience to know about us and our business?
That's a awesome segue. So using the power of the network, right? So
Okay.
one thing that I've also observed is it's really, this is personally for me, it may not be for you, but I find it hard to talk about myself. It's
Yeah.
hard to pin down like what represents you and what are the key traits and values that you represent. Like, are you trustworthy, innovative, creative, collaborative? So one thing that we recommended through LinkedIn is that leverage the power of the network, your colleagues that you have, that you're connected to within the network, that can give you feedback on keywords or statements they think represents you most. And you bring that information together that can actually help you carve out what that concise story is. What is the story of Takia? What are you trying to impact? Is your audience? And the reason for you doing that. That is where that whole transparency and integrity thing comes back. So if you get feedback from your professional network, you get feedback from your personal network on what represents you, that's going to let you form that into what your profile looks like. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Fabulous. So with here's a quick metric for you. You're already hitting it, so you've checked the box. But for folks that haven't put a photo on their LinkedIn profile, there are profiles that have a photo receive 9 times more connection requests than those that do not. And they also receive 21% or 21 times, more profile views. So these are good metrics to keep in your back pocket, because as you start adding these additional components to your profile, you start to get expanded to other groups that are going to notice you. And that's the whole purpose of this, is to build out that network. Some simple tactical things for the team. I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to my profile. I'm going to open up my account here, and you don't have to have a glam shot. You don't have to have one of those professional shots done. Do what makes you feel like it's you being represented. Mine is a little bit stoic and noir looking, which I don't know if, I think I'm going to update mine to be a little bit more interesting. But one thing that's cool is you can take your cell phone, and modern phones now have these filters, and you can do studio shots. Just make sure you have a kind of a blank, like a white or a normal background that you can use. You don't want to have things, and a family and pets and kids are great, but you don't want to have those in your LinkedIn profile. This is a professional network, so the point is to represent that. Another cool feature, and I'm not sure if you knew this or not, Takia, but I found out about it a few weeks ago in the app itself, and I'm going to pull it up because I don't have a way to mirror my phone, but there's a really cool feature that's for inclusion that you can actually I don't know, I'm going to put my phone right here. There, hopefully that's in focus. Do you see that? Name pronunciation.
Oh,
It might not be in
wow.
focus, but if you get the app, go into the app and then go into your settings on your profile, and you can speak into your phone and pronounce your name the way it's appropriately pronounced. Because sometimes people might not, if you have a name that's, it's from a different region, or you're just not familiar with how to say the name, this helps that connection happen. So someone knows how to pronounce your name appropriately, which is kind of a cool feature they have in there.
That's good. That's a good one.
All righty. Headline. So headline is this right here. You see underneath underneath my name. The importance of headline is that when you do a search on Google, on Bing, on LinkedIn, and you look someone up LinkedIn Takia Ross, what's going to come up is Takia's name and then the headline underneath. So this is like the first hook that someone's going to be able to pull and understand who you are. You've done great. You've already done this right here, and you've updated your headline. If you do not update your headline, it will default to your most current position, which doesn't necessarily pop your profile as well. So it's good to think through when you're building out your headline. It's a short one-liner that appears, that sits right there underneath your name. It's how you represent your brand and differentiate yourself from others. And you want to create something kind of compelling. Like, so if you notice, you and I have something similar. You've put keywords and you've sectioned them with pipe, the vertical line. There's other ways that you could think about doing this, where you could actually write it as a small narrative, what really drives you. What you have here is fine, by the way. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying there's other ways to think about how you want your headline to show.
Okay.
So the other piece is, let me see, how do you're great. This is great. City and location, and industry. So industry you've represented. So if 3,000 people search based on industry each week, 300,000 on LinkedIn. So having that information will allow you to receive 9 times more profile views if you do not. If I'm not mistaken, I believe you do have your industry covered.
Well, I hope so, Brad. But I have a whole list, a half a page of stuff already that I have to get my life in order about.
Well, that we're going to improve, right? And that's the purpose of this for everyone tuning in is to do that. So if you pare down your location, which you've done, if it's just state, it's great. But when you put in the city that you're in, and I'm close to Baltimore, near and dear, and everything that we do here is to improve, the local economy. So it's awesome that we're representing Baltimore here. But with that, you have 19 times more profile views just because of the fact that you're putting in the city. I'm sorry, 23 times more profile views over and above the state. So these are interesting little metrics to think about, because as you pin down and get close on where you're located, that lets you get discovered. Takia Ross is located in Baltimore City as a running accessimatized as a makeup artist. Like, it starts to shape the story for folks that want to connect with you.
Okay.
So profile summary. So we talked about it a little bit in the beginning. That's the about section. Now, you've got it great, but you've got a good start going on here. But one thing, as I mentioned before, is you want to speak in the first person narrative. So this is removing yourself from who you are, and you're explaining it in like very objective, fact-based model. What I would recommend is that you go through and give it this more of like an art side of it. Give it more of a human element. So You're a makeup artist who transforms people into their aspirational selves to enhance their lives. Like, that's
Okay.
different than saying I'm an experienced owner and beauty professional, right?
Right. It is.
Incorporate that though. Like, you want to make sure you're calling out what you've accomplished, because you've accomplished a lot. But having that, creating that different aspect of the narrative in the first person is really important. So here are the things you need to think about when you do this. It's, who are you? Right? Like,
Mhm.
just that simple question. Like, who do you think you are? I mean, here, I'll ask you, who, from your perspective, Takia, who do you see yourself as? Not putting you on the spot, but I am.
No. I like it. It's like doing the work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I am a dope woman who believes in the power of other women. And so I am able to live out my best life by helping other people live out theirs. I think that's who I am.
I love it. And we have it recorded, so now you can go back and transcribe
Now
that.
I can go back and do it, Brad. I can do it. Okay. All right. And I think this practice, like this exercise, because when you first think about LinkedIn, people think about LinkedIn like if I'm looking for a job, or if you know what I mean, I want, like I want to appear more corporate, if that makes sense,
It does.
And so when you're an artist or you're a creative, or you're outside kind of like, I guess, the norm that people think when they think about LinkedIn,
Yeah.
you're not quite sure how you're supposed to present yourself. Like, do I show the artsy side of me? Do I show the quirky side and, the fun and that sort of thing? Or do I keep it really corporate? I think that's, that's something I battle with.
And I think it's important that you don't want to have a situation where you're covering who you are. And I think there is a stigma that LinkedIn is corporate, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because if people understand the true you that represents the business that you own, the true you that represents what you are passionate about, they're going to get a better understanding of knowing you on that connection, versus like oh, that corporate Takia is very different than the person that I'm actually talking to. When I look at your profile, you want it to, when you look at your profile, you want it to be, when I meet Takia in person, I'm not going to be surprised, because I know that based on her profile, this is who she is. This is what she does and what she's passionate about. What is work? What does it, like, work mean to you? What does your professional work mean to you? Why does it matter? Right? And you've outlined that in that narrative that you put forth just a moment ago, which was really, really great. And what impact do you want to have? You put that in there too. So to just go in and say, professional business owner that's demonstrates a history of working in cosmetic industry is all factual and true, but it's not giving me the true Takia view, right?
Okay.
Which I think there is when people understand the true Takia, there's an amazing connection that they can make that you might not have made before.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Thank you for letting me know that. I mean, I think sometimes you need a little bit of permission, just to somebody to be like, no, it's okay to, and I call it having an avatar. So it's okay to not present your avatar. You know what I mean? To be actually who you are. Okay.
Yes. And it's all in your comfort, right? If you don't feel comfortable about presenting that way, it's absolutely fine. But what I'm trying to do here with you, and what I hope resonates with folks that tune in, is that representing your true self is really genuine in your professional space, and will help you connect with folks that you want to connect with because you're showing your true self.
Got it.
So some logistics around this is, when you're creating this about summary, 40 plus words ish, like don't go below that. You got plenty here to work with in what you outlined. And again, you're going to hear the theme constantly. I'll say it, always the first person narrative. So talking about you're speaking with that. The other place that promotes or is a good accompany to the summary is the featured section. And inside of the featured section, which you have, which is awesome, and I think there's a lot more that you can look to add. If you've created any video recordings, this webinar session that we're doing right now that's going to be recorded, if you have any presentations you've done, photos, media, all that can go in here. You can load all that into your profile under featured, and that becomes incorporated into your summary. Right.
Okay.
So it's important. Like I think I suggest both of us go after this event. We take the recording and we link that into our featured section as video. So
I like it. And for some odd reason, I didn't even think to do that. Like I didn't think to add,
yeah.
videos. Like I thought, oh, okay, I'll add, articles, like as featured in. I never thought about adding
Yeah.
video. Okay.
So I had mentioned this to you before. We had and this links back to the prior series, because this is a whole LinkedIn series that we're doing. Last time we did LinkedIn Learn, you have a talent that I think a lot of folks would appreciate. And you can go in and become a contributor on LinkedIn Learn and put the contributions that you've made there into your profile. And there's a link that we will send out. The question was, how do I become a contributor? We will provide a link on how to become a contributor in LinkedIn. Okay, so that's the photo headlines and industry. I did not toggle onto the screen before, so for scrubbing, that one we didn't cover with this presentation page, but apologies for that. So, and we've covered summary. Now I want to go into the experience section. So for your experience, you're a business owner. So that's a lot of what your experience is. So if I go down, this is really representative. You've always been an entrepreneur. Is that correct?
Yes, I've been an entrepreneur for the last 8 years. Before that, Brad, I was a history professor.
So that's interesting. So I don't see your history. Is that in here? I see your education.
No, I didn't put it in there.
So I would recommend, so here's where this becomes really fascinating. It might not be totally relevant to what you're doing right now. However, your history of your experience is going to open up a whole new area of connections that could reach out to you. And who knows, if there's someone in the academia space that finds it fascinating around makeup artistry, they may make that new connection. You might even change the way people are looking at their professional career. They don't want to be in academia anymore. They want to be an entrepreneur. They want to have a startup. How can they reach out to you? So try to be as holistic as possible as far as your experience. And that's going to give you further outreach to other groups and communities.
That's good to know.
There's an interesting metric that LinkedIn has. It's called 8-5-10. So profiles with a current position and update all of their experience have 8 times more profile views, 5 times more connection requests, and 10 times more direct messages than those that do not. So I'm always rattling off the metrics just because data, it's interesting, but that's an important thing to note, because the fact that your prime objective is to get out to as many folks as you can. So doing that, adding in that additional experience is going to be extremely helpful. Let's see. I'm just going through my notes to make sure that I'm covering all the appropriate sections here.
Okay.
When you put in your experience, in the same manner that I mentioned with the profile, avoid treating it like a resume. Talk about what you were focused on impacting and your achievements. Metrics are good. Like I mentioned with metrics in LinkedIn, metrics could be how much you improve something, and when you talk about your experience here with Accessimatize, you could talk about maybe how many folks people you've impacted and changed. If there's anyone that you can reach out to that would be interested in seeing that you change their lives because of what you're doing.
Okay.
Good little narratives to put inside of your experience.
Oh, you can add that kind of like a recommendation,
so there's a section for recommendations, yes, that you can reach out to your network, which I'll cover in a moment. But from the perspective of experience, if you have just specifically around what you've metrics, is what I'm talking about, it's good to put those into your values that you've achieved, percentage of improvement, things like that, if it's relevant. I'm not saying that you have to.
Okay. I mean, it's good. Like I think these are things that we think about and we do in our business,
Yeah,
but and you may put it on your website or maybe on another platform, but you just
yep,
don't think to do it, on
mhm,
LinkedIn. Like
yep,
it's not that I don't have testimonials or other great images. It's just kind of like
yeah.
I just never thought
Never
that.
thought of it.
Yeah, okay.
So with all of the great content that you have, and I know you have a ton of it, you'll be you'll be your profile will be phenomenal by the time you get through this. You have it
Oh
all
yeah, I'm gonna
there.
have a good time. Oh, Brad, I'm about to have a good time. Okay, I'm about to have such a good time. It's about to be on it. They're not even gonna know this profile when we finish with it.
There we
They're gonna
go.
be like, oh, she's new and fancy. She's fancy for 2021. She's fancy.
Exactly. 2020 is behind us. It's time for the
Yes,
new 21.
yes.
So then this is a good segue. Here's the skills and endorsements section that you mentioned. You have quite a few. The top that you can have are 50 skills and endorsements. They go hand in hand with one another. But really, um, by default, LinkedIn pulls the most endorsements that you've had, but you can go in and modify that. So you don't have to, and I'm toggling here. Let me move to this. There we go. Toggling my profile here. If I come down to my skills, I can come in and I can edit this with the little pencil, and you can pull up whatever one you want. If you have other ones that your other skills, add new skills as you develop your talent. So if you decide to go and start building a course, for example, in LinkedIn, that would be a net new skill that you're offering, and get that and add that into your skills and in your skills section. The good part about that is as you interact with more and more folks, as you're adding skills and you get those endorsements, it's going to open up that community, because when folks do a search in LinkedIn, they base it on skills. The more skills you have, the more searches you're going to result in. Then here's another one for you. So if you have 5 or more skills in your stack of skills that you have in your profile, you're 27 more times likely to show up in a search. So think through. Remember that one thing I mentioned to you to do is reach out to your professional network, and there's 5 things that represent you, your character. Same thing. What skills do you think would be endorsable? They can give you feedback on.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm excited. So I'm in here because I noticed that, and maybe you can help. I was looking under because I'm on my own, like I'm the behind the scenes, like you're seeing what everybody can see. But
Yes.
behind the scenes, I noticed that somebody was endorsing me for skills that I hadn't
Hmm.
um highlighted. Am I saying it right?
That you
So
that you didn't put out, that someone else
yes,
did for you. Now, is
yes.
is is that skill representative of you? Do you feel like you have that skill?
Yes, I do. I accepted the skills because I didn't even think to,
Okay.
like,
Yep. So absolutely, folks can endorse you for skills, and you can accept them if you didn't think about it. So
okay,
if
because
I went in, sorry,
you can only do 3 skills because it's saying that you can only highlight 3.
you can only pin 3 skills. So if you see my
Okay,
screen here, I have the
yeah,
3 skills pinned to the top. However, I have a whole slew of skills below in industry knowledge, right? Industry
right.
knowledge, different topics around tools and tech, interpersonal, etc. This is just because when I go on to show my skills, if you look at my profile, LinkedIn's only going to show the top 3.
Okay,
And you can show more or less if you see right here, but it just shows the top 3 that are endorsed. You can toggle to bring the ones that you feel are most relevant that for your skill set at this time. But if you start
mhm.
to build more muscle in another space, more skill in another space, you can move that up and have that at the top 3. So that's showing.
Okay,
Um, Great. So the recommendation, this one's interesting. This is kind of how the more recommendations you get, the more credibility you build. And it's not to say that you're not credible. It's more or less to showcase on LinkedIn that you have credibility. So
hmm
reaching out to folks like colleagues that you've worked with or mentors that you may have had through your life, just to connect and say, and you can request a recommendation. Now, LinkedIn suggests best practices. Don't use the generic customized or the generic recommendation language. Write a short, concise request to someone that you say, maybe you had someone you worked with that mentored you through the makeup artistry space, and it really resonated with you. And you can say, hey, you had a great impact on my life. Would you mind writing me a recommendation? And if the person's really busy, like they're an executive or they have tons of work to do, you could even write it for them and say, is this narrative language okay? Would you mind endorsing me with a recommendation? So it sounds like you're kind of going around tin cupping a little bit, but it's really worth building the strength around the credibility in your profile. So if you have anyone close to you that you in your professional or personal career that you would feel could do that, I recommend that you put out a couple just to get recommendations, because that's going to help people see when they go visit your profile. Oh, wow, she's got recommendations from this person and this person, etc.
Okay. So you already got me. I'm already clicking, Brad. I'm over here clicking and sending stuff.
Real time, right?
Yeah, I'm like ready. I'm gonna do this while Brad is on this line, just in case I have to ask Brad a few questions.
There you go. And the last section that we'll cover is your volunteer experience. If you have any volunteer experience, good things about that are this doesn't necessarily apply to you, but I'll outline it. If you have gaps in employment or your gaps in owning a business and you want to do something different, if during that time you volunteered to do things, it's good to outline that to show how you filled your time with volunteer while you weren't working. Doesn't have to be detailed as building out your experience and building out your summary, but it's more or less around, where'd you volunteer at, and maybe 2 sentences on how you contributed as a volunteer, something simple.
Okay.
Then that's another fun metric is 6 times more profile views for folks that have volunteer experience in their profile.
So what if you volunteer in your current position? So,
outline that.
Okay, put that in there.
Put that in that section of volunteering that you're in your current position. You're right now currently volunteering on fill in the blank.
Okay, got it. Let me write that.
This is the kind of high level on building out your profile. It's not recommended you sit and do this all at once. What is recommended to help you organize is after this session, go in your calendar, carve out like 30 minutes, maybe an hour each week, and focus on a section that you want to really hit. So do your summary with the about, do some featured content that you want to upload, go in and check your skills, everything that we went through. If you try to take it on all at once, you kind of burn out and you just lose that inspiration. If you do it in incremental steps, it will thrive and it's a lot easier. And you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to hop in.
Brad, don't say that out there like that, Brad, because then I'm gonna be calling you, Brad.
I would love for you to call me and we can work on this. So.
Okay. Then now everybody heard that. Now everybody on, we have it recorded, Brad, so I can go back.
That's right.
That's great.
Awesome.
This has been really helpful. Takia, you are both amazing. I was taking down notes. Takia, I don't have the pretty pictures you have, so I'm not gonna be able to. I don't have half of the things you have, but I'm going to get mine up as well. Let me start with some of the questions. We had a lot of questions coming in on Facebook and questions coming in through text. So I want to make sure we get to them. And I know, Takia, you may have some questions as well. Let me start with some of the questions about LinkedIn Learning, because I think you both started there. People want to know, how do they become a contributor to LinkedIn Learning? I'm looking at Takia. She does on Facebook really, a lesson. Is it every day?
I do one every Wednesday, and then once a month I do a whole week.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right. So I think I just got the whole week. Because I felt like, but how do people become contributors to LinkedIn? How do they go about doing that, Brett?
So there's a link. I think we're going to provide the link out to folks in the I guess in the notes or with this, where you can go out and actually become an instructor. It's called LinkedIn. It's learning.linkedin.com/instructors. And essentially it lets you go in, and I can show you really quick my screen. Well, if you give me just a moment. This is what you'll see when you land on the page. Is become a LinkedIn learning instructor. You fill in some information and then you can essentially sign up. And I think this is really, I didn't realize, Takia, that you were doing these sessions inside of Facebook, but you can essentially force multiply your reach by becoming an instructor in LinkedIn as well.
Okay. Well, now look at that. Now,
so what's the next lesson? What's the next lesson, Takia?
The next lesson is makeup for speakers. So makeup for Zoom.
That's
and
perfect.
makeup for speaking.
How relevant.
Perfect. You talked about LinkedIn for businesses. People are wondering, how do you sign up as a group, as an organization for LinkedIn for business?
So for business, you'll have to, it's similar to the page that I just showed. There's we'll also provide the link, but there's a small business or a business sign up page that you go and you fill in, and what you can do, it'll reach out to sales and does this contact, but what it'll also let you do is a free trial. So you get 30 days free as a small business to trial to make sure you're comfortable with it. We'll have that link as well.
Excellent. So that link is being put in the chat, but it's also being put on Facebook. So everybody, you can sign up for LinkedIn for business. Let me get to the questions. Also some questions that were posed today. How should we be making section updates to our LinkedIn profiles? I know you talked to Takia about doing it in chunks or in stages and phases, but how often should we be making section updates to our LinkedIn profiles?
So this goes back similar to what we mentioned a little bit last series, Sue. One thing is updates to the profile, only update it if you see that there's something worth it needs to be updated. You have a new skill, right? Like that's one, for example, or you're getting an endorsement, but one area that I would stay regular with, and this is very relevant for you, Takia, is featured. You want to use this as your anchor hub where you can put everything that you're doing. And it's a one-stop shop that someone can go and find the classes you've delivered, the presentations you've done. Here's makeup artistry that I've put together, and you can see my entire portfolio. Anytime you get something, apply it to that in your featured section, because it's going to give people the rich media that, people they're fine with reading, but people love to go in and see media. You know that with social media as well as I do. So now posts, as you do featured things, you can also represent them in your post. So you could do a LinkedIn post saying, hey, did this course, come take a look at it. And then you can start to get that feed going with people that are following you and folks that might not. So they can go out and recognize your profile and then maybe pick up a class with Takia on makeup artistry for doing webinars.
Yeah. Now, Brad, I got to add that to the list, Brad. Okay. Webinar makeup. Brad.
I'm going to do that one. I'm on a webinar, so I need that session.
Well, don't threaten us with a good time. That's what I'm
coming. Now, let me ask this next question. Someone asked, would you recommend checking with your employer to upload work presentation recordings in your LinkedIn portfolio?
That's a great question. Yeah, you do want to clearly make sure that it can be publicly exposed, whatever content. Another great place, if you want to represent, to make sure that you're representing your company appropriately, is most companies have a branding page that you can go to, and they have allowable content that you can share. So when you're talking about logos, when you're talking about copyright, that type of stuff, check with your HR or with your public relations group. If you're in the large enterprise, make sure they're okay with it. And normally they'll give you the green light and you can load it, but also leverage the branding pages.
Yeah. And many times if your recording is already being produced and published by your employer, you can always share, of course, if it's happening. But if that's not the case, then definitely, as Brad said, getting that clearance. This is a question: how do endorsements work? People have been looking at Takia. You can have 5 million views today, Takia. You'll see people looking at your
Well,
profile.
listen, I'm over here looking at them. I'm looking at them. We looking at each other. We are looking at each other right now.
You're
I
looking
got
at
new
each
friends.
other.
Yes, we got new friends. You know, we build a new relationship.
Right. How do these endorsements work? So we see them on Takia's page. How are they working for her? How are they boosting her profile? And can you elaborate more on the process?
Sure. So the more endorsement, we'll call them likes, I guess, if you could equate that to social media, but the more endorsements that you get, it starts to bubble you up higher into search results. So if someone's searching based on a skill and Takia's got, 30, 40 endorsements on a particular skill, you're going to raise up above folks that aren't endorsed. That's kind of part of how the engine works to show, give the most relevant response to a search.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's really important that if you do acquire new skills, that you get that into your skills section for endorsement, and because you'll be more present in searches when they're done.
So are we supposed to now, Brad? I got that. I told you, Brad, when I get close, that means I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we got to glean in. So are we supposed to make sure? Are we supposed to ask? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you ask people?
You can. Absolutely, you can ask. If you have like I mentioned with the recommendation, you could reach out to a mentor and saying, hey, I have a skill. Would you mind endorsing me for that skill? You can absolutely do that.
Okay.
And I would if you have folks that you're close with, I recommend it. So you can reach out to me on how you conduct a webinar and I'll endorse you for it.
Okay, well, don't again. Look at Brad. Look at Brad with these good threats.
Offering support and counsel. We appreciate you, Brad.
I know. I'm gonna be calling him. He'd already said it. He re-recorded it. He said
right.
I could call him. That's what he said.
It's memorialized.
It's memorialized. Let me ask you this. So, what someone has said, they see 2 Takia Rosses on.
Mm-hmm.
They see a Takia Ross, and then a Takia Ross. They don't look like they're like she's been spammed. It looks like she set up 2 pages. Is that appropriate? Like, if that's your own profile and you see the same thing, what should you be doing? What should you be thinking about?
It's a great question. Typically this happens because LinkedIn's been around for a while, right? And maybe a long time ago you went and set up a profile and you were kicking the tires on it, and then you decided you kind of walked away from it, right? And then you came back in and you signed up, and now you have Accessimatized and you have a brand domain that's part of your company, and you sign up with that. Now you have 2 accounts. So what do you do? I'm going to share my screen and show you what you do.
Oh, now we fancy. Now we getting fancy now.
Now we're getting fancy.
Out again.
Yeah, I got it out. I don't put it back. Brad
So
comes out.
if you go to settings and policy, there's a section in here that's called account preferences. And then within the account preferences, my scroller's a little slow. There's an account management section towards the bottom. And you can do a few things. As you can see, you can straight up close the account if you want, if you don't want to have the second one anymore. Some folks may like to keep the second account if it's like their kind of personal professional. It's like them as a worker versus them owning a business. So it depends on your scenario. You can hibernate the account, meaning you just you don't delete it, but you take it off of LinkedIn. It's not showing up anymore. Or you can merge them. So you take both and the accounts go together as, Takia at Hotmail, Takia at Accessimatized. It's both connected together. I don't see a lot in the one profile here. It's pretty, you can tell the one that you're paying attention to. So you could probably put this into like hibernation. You don't even have there's not really connections going on in here, or even close it. And then focus your attention to this profile, which is far more radiant.
Okay. Thank you, Brad, because I didn't even know, Brad. I didn't even know. I'm just out here working around people looking for me, wrong me. Well, it was the right me, just at the wrong time. That's all it was.
There you go. And there's a whole new Takia. So
it's a whole new one. Look.
We have another question that and is it okay to prioritize your skills reprioritize your skill at different moments? So the top 3 skills that you put up, is like, how often should you do that as you evolve? What would your thought process be on that, Brett?
So yes, you can update and toggle your skill set on how you want them to show up in LinkedIn. So I mentioned there's the top 3 will show up by default, and folks can go in and then see more. But if you are really doubled down doing something around makeup artistry, that's a skill that you need to put at the top, because that's who you want to connect with, and that's who you want to be recognized as. You don't want to be IT management or program manager, or because it's got nothing to do with makeup artistry. So keep your skills relevant and current, because that's who you're going to surface and make connections to, is other folks that share those skills, or industries that are looking for that talent with that skill.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, Brad, really quickly. I'm sorry,
No,
Alicia. So the question I have is, how often should you be posting on LinkedIn? Like, you know what I mean? Like how, like, you know, just how often should we be saying something or engaging on our LinkedIn platform?
Yeah, when it's appropriate. And I know that's an interesting way to respond. But if there's nothing really that you feel is relevant to you that you want to share, if you're just sharing for the sake of sharing and it doesn't seem like it's not genuine, don't post it. But if it's something that is relevant to you, you want to get that message out to the professional community, you want to seek feedback and get response, you want to build out connections because of that, post. Don't stop posting though. Like, keep that going. You want to keep regular cadence. If it's maybe once a week that you put something out there, just to keep because you want to keep your account, I'll say warm would be the term I use. If you're just going and you're just reading posts all the time and you're not contributing back into the LinkedIn network, it doesn't look as great. It doesn't look like you're as engaged. You don't need to post every single day though, if what you're posting doesn't feel relevant to you and feel like it's something that you're going to make a benefit or impact with.
So I just, because I'm going to piggyback on it, because I know for a lot of entrepreneurs, like, we are mindful of social media algorithms on different platforms, you know, and different platforms require different things. So with LinkedIn, what I am getting, and you can correct me, is that it's better to have all of your behind the scenes profile stuff, you know, more up to date than it is the consistent posting. Am I making sure like your skills and endorsements are right, making sure
Correct.
that your profile, you know, your about is saying the right thing.
Correct.
You know, that behind the scenes stuff more than the post, you know, the consistent posting. Okay.
Absolutely. And with you, if you're doing featured courses, if you're doing courses regularly, maybe not every single day, but if you're doing like the longer, larger courses and you want folks to see that, that's a very relevant topic to post on. It'll be featured in your profile, but it's very relevant to post on. So
thank you.
This is a question just came in. How should we balance adding more experiences on our profile when they may not be relevant to what we are currently working on? They don't want their profile to be like a resume, but they also want to showcase a holistic skill set. So what's the balance there?
It's a great question. There's not the perfect answer, but what I would say is, where you went from having a job to thinking about having a career is where you start. So, you know, I did odd jobs when I was a teenager, which did not represent my career. But as soon as I got into the mode that I'm going to focus on building my career, be it an entrepreneur, be it in corporate America, be it in corporate anywhere, that's when you start to put in there. And how did you, in that career mode, have an impact in that space? What were your accomplishments, right? And it doesn't matter if it goes back 10 years, 15 years. It's important that because it shows you aren't just a makeup artist. You're a makeup artist that taught history. And all of that longitudinal cycle that represents Takia is what makes you uniquely Takia right now. So to get that holistic view is important, but where it was just a job and it was, you know, your first job type of thing, that's not as important. Internships too, by the way. So for folks that are startups that might be coming out of college and you had internships that are relevant, putting them in your experience is important.
Okay, we got this question in. This is a tough one. So we see Takia's under her name, she lists herself as a professional makeup artist, the owner of Dream Mobile Baltimore, author of So You Want to Pitch. So we've also seen people who would just stop at professional makeup artists. They would never mention their company affiliation. Is there a right or wrong on that? So some people say like board member, C-suite executive, but they never mention where they work or who they're affiliated with. Is there a right or wrong or a way to think about that?
No, it's actually, so the purpose of LinkedIn is that can be found in your experience, right? If you go into their profile and check their experience, they can see where they work. That's fine. I don't think necessarily outlining where you work represents you as a professional. The purpose of the tagline or the headline is to represent you as a professional. So if you feel comfortable with just having professional makeup artists and you think that represents you, great. There's no right or wrong answer to that. But if you feel there's more that you can talk or you can expand on and should say to kind of outline your passion and how you can be impactful, that's the purpose of the headline, because that's the first thing you're going to see, that anyone's going to see when they search your name. Like I mentioned, name and then the headline. Doesn't have to say I work at Microsoft or I own Accessimatize. You can, obviously, if you want to do that. But what experiences best represent you, the genuine you, is what goes in that headline.
Excellent, excellent. Well, both of you, huge thank you to both of you. This has been a lot of fun. It's been very informative. We had a lot of people tuning in on Facebook for this. Building and branding the best you. Certainly, Takia, you are the best you off of the LinkedIn.
Thank you.
Now it's about to it's going to be popping on the LinkedIn. So that's a good thing. And thank you, Brad and Microsoft, for hosting this for us. You've been an amazing partner, and I know it is added tremendous value to me, and I hope so for those who tuned in. So thank you both. Over and over. If you need your makeup done or you're thinking about getting a lip, I'm telling you, you want Kiki Thunder. You make sure you have it in your makeup case. Let me make a couple of announcements and then we're going to close out. So Thursday at 1:00, we're going to do another session of Entrepreneurship Matters with Nicole Foster, Cajole Creamery, and Sean Smeaton with Tahaka Brothers. All about ice cream. All about ice cream this
That sounds fun.
So you have to come and hear their stories of entrepreneurship and how they're progressing and their tips for other entrepreneurs. Please follow us on JH Connects on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Email us, jhconnects@jhu.edu. I want to thank our partners, Johns Hopkins University, Johns Hopkins Health System, Hopkins Local, Microsoft, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Thank you, Takia.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful. Have a
Bye
good
now.
one.
Bye.